Yo, what's good, everybody? My name is Cosmic, and I want to welcome you to my channel, Opinion Stated, where I give unfiltered, opinionated sports takes. Let's go. Yo, what's good, everybody? My name is Cosmic. I want to welcome you back to my channel, Opinion Stated, and I've got a great episode planned for you today. Really excited for this one. This one in celebratory fashion of Mr. Dame Lillard, exceptional basketball player and who has been for 13 seasons in the NBA. In case you've been living under a rock the last couple days, you haven't heard all the hoopla swirling about that Dame Lillard is returning to the Portland Trailblazers after a 2-year stint away from them. But before we dive deeply into this content, do me a huge favor, like the video. Liking the video helps us cruise along Algorithm Avenue, helps us get into the presence of individuals just like yourself who might be interested in this kind of content. And likewise, subscribe to the channel, clicking the notification bell after subscribing helps you stay in the know as to when my latest episodes are uploaded. And so, yeah, I want to dive directly into this content. I am entitling today's episode, Keeping That Dame Energy. Keeping that Dame energy. So, again, man, for those who may not be aware, Damian Lillard, in case you're like waking up from a coma or something, Damian Lillard was traded to the Milwaukee Bucks, back in 2023. And that after, I want to say, maybe a lot of pressure from, those in sports media, maybe some, family member, friend persuasion, perhaps some persuasion from fellow players in the league who perhaps urged him to leave the Portland Trailblazers situation after he had been there for 11 years because, man, you were never going to win a ring there. Maybe you won't be fulfilled. It's that kind of ring culture conversation. Well, there'll be a bit of a, kind of unfinished or unsettled portion of your career. It could be heavily or more influenced, more solidified by winning a championship. And so I think that Damian bought into it. The Portland Trailblazers, to bring people up to speed, were very amenable to a trade and trade talks with Damian if he ever wanted to engage in them. He had never gone to them and requested a trade. It just kept being kicked around for a couple years. And then finally, Damian, went into the ownership with the Portland Trailblazers and, began talks about, what that would look like if he was traded someplace else and to play inside of a uniform and city that was not Portland itself, that was not a Trailblazers uniform. And so, eventually it happened where he was traded to the Milwaukee Bucks, as the graphic shows here. And this deal was a really interesting deal. Obviously Damian Lillard, stellar basketball player, and that because of his prowess came with a pretty hefty contract, so the Bucks would, in this deal, 3-team deal between the Milwaukee Bucks, the Portland Trailblazers, and the Suns, the Bucks would receive Damian Lillard. And the Trailblazers, in turn, would receive Jrue Holiday, DeAndre Ayton, Toumani Camara, and Milwaukee's, get this, unprotected 2029 first-round pick, a 2028, and 2030 first-round swap rights with Milwaukee. So the Trailblazers can swap the 28 and 30 picks, first-round picks, with Milwaukee. If Milwaukee happens to have better draft position in them, they could say, even if it's the number one, maybe, I don't know if that's protected, but like, yo, we want to swap picks with you. Which is crazy. And also, again, they get the 2029 pick unprotected as well, just like straight up. That pick will belong, Milwaukee's pick will belong to Portland in 2029. The Suns got out of this deal Yusuf Nurkic, Grayson Allen, Nasir Little, and Keon Johnson. So the Suns got a bunch of bullshit. None of those people, maybe Grayson. I think Grayson was still playing for the team last year, or maybe not. But I don't think any of those players, are even in the league at this point. I could be wrong, but I just wanted to point that out because that ultimately got Damian Lillard into a Milwaukee uniform. Dame got a chance to play alongside Giannis. Adrian Griffin initially was the coach. They did fairly well. Giannis got hurt in the playoffs, first round exit, in the 2023 that 2023 season, up to 2024, 2025, same thing. You know what I mean? So this present year, unfortunately, um, saw Damian Lillard go down with an Achilles injury in the playoffs. And as I stated, he underwent surgery few days later. So that would have been in May, to repair the Achilles and to get him in the mode of healing and recovering and rehabbing, that Achilles. He'll probably more than likely miss a full year, or as a result of the injury, typically, a player would lose an entire season. If they follow the Kevin Durant trajectory anyway, which I think was a good model, Kevin missed an entire season. So it gave him a full year and an off season to get himself back in basketball form and to get ready to play, to gain more confidence in that repaired Achilles. And, Durant came back looking like himself, not looking like a shell of himself. So I'm hoping that the same applies for Damian Lillard at this stage of his career. But unfortunately, on July the 1st, while rehabbing, while still, kind of going through, a summer of maybe mental anguish, physical, obviously, Damian Lillard was waived by the Milwaukee Bucks on July the 1st. They decided to stretch out his remaining $113 million that was remaining on his contract over the next 5 years. So Damian Lillard, regardless, would still be collecting a paycheck from the Milwaukee Bucks for the next 5 years. Just going to take him a little bit longer to get the money that he was owed over 2 years. So, with that, a lot of people speculated that, what'll probably happen is, Dame will just take his time to heal, to rehab, and he's in a power position. If he does happen to come back and he's himself, well, he'll be able to pick and choose and just kind of pick and choose whatever team he wants to go to, which is cool because he's under no pressure financially to I gotta get signed by somebody. I have to get signed by somebody, because he's still got money coming in from the Milwaukee deal. And so that was the speculation. It just was kind of the logical thing for a lot of people. And I've heard a lot of, folks in the sports media space speak on that very topic or speak to it in that regard. Well, that was until a few days ago when it was announced that Damian Lillard would be returning to the Portland Trail Blazers. I do want to say that that announcement was shocking to me. I was like, well, wow, that's crazy. Because I will say that I thought about it before, maybe he'll want to return, back home and, to Portland rather. But I was just like, nah, Portland's got no, you know what I mean? They turned the page and kind of gone in a different direction. But boy, was I surprised. Boy, was I shocked. Boy, was I wrong. And that's cool. So I wanted to dig into an article really quickly. This article published on sportsillustrated.com on yesterday. And so I wanted to dig into this article just, really quick. It's just a really, really quick 3-paragraph article. But it is entitled NBA World Reacts to Damian Lillard's out of nowhere decision to return to Trailblazers. And this article was penned by Liam McKeon. I believe I've read some of Liam's work here before. But Lillard tore his Achilles during the playoffs this season, as I stated. So the article is as follows. Damian Lillard is returning to Portland on Thursday. The sudden news broke that Lillard, currently a free agent, as he recovers from an Achilles tear during the Milwaukee Bucks' postseason run, will be signing with the Trailblazers on a 3-year deal worth $42 million, as reported by Sports Illustrated's Chris Mannix. The final year of the contract includes a player option and a no-trade clause. It's a totally out of nowhere development on numerous levels. Nobody expected Lillard to sign for much more than the veteran minimum, since he's unlikely to see the floor until the 2026-27 season. The Blazers offered him $14 million a year. In addition, the widely held belief was that Lillard would look for his best opportunity to win a championship after failing to do so in Portland and Milwaukee. The Blazers, coming off another lottery finish, are long shots in the department. Above all, it was surprising to see Lillard make a decision so quickly, given there's almost no chance he can play next season. And yet, Despite all that context, a homecoming is happening. Lillard returns to the Trailblazers, where he starred for 11 seasons and earned the Dame Time moniker with clutch heroics year after year in Portland before getting traded to the Bucks in 2023. The NBA world was left reeling by the shocking turn of events and reacted accordingly. And so you can see I'll run some of the comments from individuals on X, on Twitter, formerly, or X, formerly known as Twitter, as they just kind of, express their surprise and, like praise for the idea. I likewise, responded to my buddies in group chat saying, man, you can't deny that it's a feel good story, and it just feels like the right thing to do. And it's one of those stories that you can kind of get behind as like a feel good story, and not, like see anything but positive as a result, because Damian Lillard spent and he dedicated so much time. He has so much love in that Portland community. Really, really, and truly didn't want to leave that franchise. Since has, endured like life stuff, man, on his family side. I don't really do a lot of the, gossip things. So I don't really pay much attention to, like all of people's business when it's thrown out there. But I do remember hearing something about kind of, him having marital issues and stuff like that. So I know his family was still living in Portland, still residing in Portland. His children, small children as well. And so I'm sure that took its toll mentally and emotionally on Dame. And so I'm happy to see him at least, man, return home to be able to, be loved and embraced, especially in that community, but with his family as well, man, from people who really love and appreciate, Dame and what he does. So not one of my favorite basketball players in the league, but definitely a fan of Damian Lillard. One way or the other, I guess I can't say one of my favorite players over the years. But the angle that I kind of approached this episode from was just in thinking about, not only or in considering not only that Damian Lillard was traded in 2023, all the parts that came as a result, all the trade assets that they received because they were shipping him to the Bucks. You know what I mean? Like, only to have him return to Portland. You know what I mean? And so I I just thought that it was kind of interesting. You know what I mean? And so that's the premise that I kind of, like I said, approached the episode with, was, the Blazers, it seems like, loaned the Bucks Dame as a future asset strategy. It's like, hey man, you guys can borrow him for 2 years, but then we need him back. And so to get him back with the trade asset still in place, man, is a very powerful thing for them, of course. And so I wanted to kind of, mention that, not only that for them, but you have people, fans, you know what I mean, like those who are, you know what I mean, like pundits, etc., or content creators, asking the questions, like, you know what I mean, like, well, how does this even make sense? You know what I mean, like, this guy's coming off this injury, you're gonna throw all this money to him, with this injury. And the same thing happened with Kevin Durant, by the way. He suffered the Achilles tear in Golden State, and then that same summer, was involved in that, move to Brooklyn. And so under different circumstances, of course, but still the same. So I wanted to take a look at, one such, question being posed via Twitter, that was as a result of that Sports Illustrated article. But that question thrown out there was, the Cinderella story is cute, but why are we giving a 35-year-old coming off of a torn Achilles $18 million a year? First of all, it's $14 million a year, according to the math. But great question. That question came from, oddly enough, on Twitter, a handle of Tatum Celtics, right? And so I say oddly enough because Tatum's dealing with the same thing with an Achilles, a little younger, obviously, than Dame in terms of age. But I thought it was an interesting question. And it is kind of like a practical question. So I won't act like it's like why you hating, or, what I mean? Like, what is this person talking about? It does seem kind of odd to offer so much money, and especially present and future money, to an individual who is recovering from and injuries such as an Achilles, especially because the Achilles prior to present day with modern medicine and maybe some of the different technologies, training, etc., and rehab, uh, the Achilles injury was known as, the career ender, and so that it hasn't been that in recent years. I think that kind of justifies why the Portland Blazers rather would give Damian Lillard, a contract that, in addition to the feel good storybook, you know what I mean, like kind of return home. And so beyond that, the NBA insider Bobby Marks, who typically talks a lot about the structure of contracts, what the aprons are, salary cap, etc. He literally, is on TV to kind of dig through some of those. If you follow his pod, you'll find a lot of great value in that. He talks a lot about the money a lot. And he actually shared some insights that I wanted to share in this article as well, because about the no trade clause, right? And so, I'll just dig into it and I'll let you surmise from it what you will. But Bobby Marks states, Damian Lillard is allowed to have a no trade clause in his contract despite not playing with the Trailblazers the past 2 years. The criteria is 8 years in the NBA, 4 years of accrued service with that particular team. Lillard earned this with Portland prior to being traded. And so I wanted to show that Bobby Marks, tweet, not only to speak to, damn, that's how a no trade clause is factored into these contracts. So that everybody can get a no trade clause. There are only 2 individuals in the NBA who had no trade clauses worked into their contracts, that being Bradley Beal before he was bought out by the Suns just a couple days ago. And now presently still LeBron James is holding on to his because he's still presently signed for this one season in LA. After this season, his no trade clause will go away. The only player at that point who will have an active no trade clause will be Damian Lillard. With it? Okay, cool. So I shared that information also to say that, Damian Lillard earned his present money with the Portland Trailblazers based on his previous history with them. Just as Bobby is pointing out, the 8 years with the team, the 8 years in the league, rather, the 4 years with the team, or 4, so he would have satisfied those things. But 11 seasons, his first 11 seasons being spent in Portland, man, he earned their love, their respect, and their honor, to give him the money. They're like, man, if we're going to pay it to anybody, we'll pay it to him. So, you know what I mean? Like, that's why he's getting the money. Not only that, but if you need a further explanation as to why Damian Lillard would be making so much money, or why the Portland Trail Blazers would be willing to give him the money, then just consider his actual output with the with the Trailblazers, and that being, he's ranked first in points all time with the franchise with 19,376 points, and 3-point field goals made with 2,387. So ranked number 1, and he's second in assists with 5,151 assists dished out. And in games played, he's number 3. So he's still in a position, returning to the franchise, to obviously dish more assists and obviously to play more games, which may have him, number 1 ranked in all those categories before it's all said and done. For all intents and purposes, I believe that Damian Lillard will retire as a Trailblazer, and I think the Trailblazers are making it known of how much they love and appreciate and respect Damian Lillard, which they should. They have every reason to. You can see from some of the highlights that I'm running on the screen, Dame, as the article stated, he earned that, that Dame Time moniker by, being clutch, man, in such, moments that leave an indelible print on a basketball lover, of any age, and which has actually done that. And so I can understand why the fans love him so much, why they've endeared themselves to him, and why he's, and vice versa, done the same. And so, again, with that, Damian Lillard agreed to a 3-year, $42 million salary with the Trailblazers, a new contract. He played his first 11 seasons, as I stated, there in Portland, man. Took a 2-year, loan assignment out in Milwaukee. And then, after the NBA lender program was over, he's making his way back to Portland. But that will be, again, on a $42 million salary over the next 3 years, which, roughly breaks down to $14 million per year from Portland that he'll earn with his money that he's still owed by the Milwaukee Bucks. It'll, as it stands, it'll put him in a position to make $70 million just this season upcoming alone. $70 million, which means, by mathematical fact, that the Milwaukee Bucks owe him some $56 million to pay out during the 2025-2026 season. Portland still has to pay him. They have him under contract now to pay him presently just to rehab. So to be clear, Damian Lillard is about to earn $70 million next season, and he won't even log an NBA minute. That's incredible for him. Go Dame, go get your money, brother. So I wanted to, to point those things out. It is definitely a feel-good story to have Damian Lillard return to the Portland Trailblazers after being away for 2 years. But again, to support this premise and the notion that I had as them kind of loaning Damian Lillard as a trade asset to go back into the memory banks. I mean, obviously in the present, for future references coming up as far as draft capital is concerned, the Bucks gave away to the Portland Trailblazers their 2029 pick, first round pick, unprotected. And then in 2028 and 2030, they have the right, being the Portland Trailblazers, to swap first round picks with Milwaukee. So Milwaukee still keeps those from the deal made 2 years ago, which sent Damian Lillard away. Even though Damian Lillard is back, Portland still has those trade assets. It's powerful, right? Well, so in the initial trade for Damian Lillard, Jrue Holiday was included in that trade, and it sent Jrue Holiday to Portland before Jrue worked something out, and I think he got waived or bought out, and then he ended up signing with the Boston Celtics, winning a championship before, a few years have elapsed since, and now Jrue was sent back to Portland as well. So I just found it really interesting. And not only do they keep those trade assets, but they still keep even Jrue Holiday. It's like the whole the whole trade, or most of the pieces, the good pieces of that trade, you know what I mean? Like, still ended up back on Portland's side of the deal, which is crazy. I'm not sure if he will be when the season starts, but I don't know why Jrue Holiday wouldn't be a part of that team. He'll add veteran presence and veteran leadership. I'm not saying he's going to help them win, a ton of games this year, and it'll make them contenders for the playoffs because they're just such a young team. But when Dame gets back, man, they'll be in a much better position and a much better team, obviously, with the help of Jrue Holiday to kind of help some of the young guys get their sea legs under them and obtain the knowledge that they need to play the game on this level. So, that speaks, volumes for young Scoot Henderson and like these kinds of guys, man, who now get a chance to learn from some veterans like Damian Lillard and also Jrue Holiday. So that's been the basis of this episode, man. I want to thank you guys for checking out the channel. Thank you for tuning in to watch the episode. If you haven't done so already, like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Until then, take care of yourselves. Blessings.